right now we've had 2 people shot on a movie set accidentally.
Santa Fe prosecutors announcing they will charge actor Alec Baldwin and crew member in that deadly 2021 shooting on the movie set of Rust.
So actor Alec Baldwin shot a fellow worker with a movie prop gun on a movie set. Was it an accident or much more? Well, we're going to talk about that on this episode of Charlie Crimebuster. Well, what some people are calling it, they're calling it the fastest minutes in podcasting.
Are those solely of individuals interviewed and participating in this show and do not represent those of Peacemaker Network and Charlie Crimebuster. All individuals described or mentioned in the podcast should be considered innocent until found guilty in a court of law. This podcast contains subject matter such as violence and graphic descriptions which may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
Well, hello and welcome to another Charlie Crimebuster podcast. Well, today we're going to cover that controversy. It's a lot of controversy about it. That's a shooting involving Alec Baldwin. You know, that's really something that's in the news today. We're going to talk about it. But first, we'd like to say hi to all of those who are part of the podcast. And we'd like to invite you to connect with us. We got a lot of new listeners every single week. We appreciate it now, thousands of downloads. And we'd like you to reach out with a shout-out. You can reach me by emailing me, charliecrimebuster@gmail.com. Hey there, you can ask questions, make suggestions, and, of course, you can even disagree with our comments. We do respect you, and we encourage you to connect. Hey, also, if you'd like to support the podcast, well, you can do that by helping us by going to peacemakernetwork.com. Hit on that donate button. You can become a badge, BADGE supporter for as little as $3 a month. And of course, your help will be appreciated. Hey, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, by the way, on your podcast platform. That way you can keep up with the podcast week by week. And if you would, be so kind to leave us a review. We hope it's a good one. That would be most helpful. All right, now to our focus on today's podcast. It happened way back in October 21st of 2021. That's when Halyna Hutchins, she was a cinematographer there, she was killed after Alec Baldwin's prop firearm discharged on the set. And Hutchins, well, she died after being shot during a setup that was for a scene in a Western movie called Rust. That was filmed at a ranch on the outskirts of Santa Fe. Now, Baldwin, he was pointing a pistol at Hutchins when the gun went off, killing her, and also wounded the director, Joel Souza. Now, let's talk about the timeline. November the 17th, 2021, well, Mamie Mitchell, the script supervisor for Rust, well, he turned around and filed a lawsuit over the fatal on-set shooting, and he claimed that Baldwin and others involved with producing the film, well, that they failed to keep that film safe. Now, according to the lawsuit, well, the film's producers and others, the lawsuit says they repeatedly jeopardized the safety of the cast. They did that, they said, by skipping on safety measures and to cut costs. And the suit goes on to claim that there have been two instances where guns have been misfired on the set prior to that fatal shooting. Now, the suit also claims that the gun used by Baldwin, well, that it was, quote, unquote, regularly left unattended. That was during the filming, as was the cart for stored ammunition. Both of those, by the way, would violate what is called industry standards. Now, on December the 3rd, 2021, well, Baldwin did something, well, I'm probably sure that he gave his attorneys a mental heart attack. You see, he spoke out. That's right. He spoke out. You know, attorneys, they always want you to be quiet. Don't say anything. Do not open your mouth. But he went to ABC News, and there he had an emotional interview. And those words will probably cause difficulty to his defense. And he skirted the responsibility for the fatal shooting, that is. Now, here's what Baldwin says. He said, someone is responsible for what happened, and I can't say who it is, but I know it's not me. And then, my friend, Baldwin, he told the interviewee, he said that he had no idea that there was a live round in the gun. Also said he didn't realize it had killed Hutchins and injured the director until hours after that incident. Well, now, in the interview, Baldwin said that moments before the shooting, he and Hutchins were going over the camera angles for the scene that was involving a gun inside the church on set, and that Hutchins was instructing him to point the gun in the area of her armpit. Baldwin also said during the interview that when he was handed the gun, he was told that it was cold, and that he was cocking the gun but not pulling the trigger as they rehearsed the scene. That's what they said. Then on October the 5th, 2022, Baldwin, he announced a settlement with the Hutchins family. They had sued. And so Matthew Hutchins, Halyna's husband, both of them announced an agreement to settle one of the civil cases stemming from the shooting. In a statement from his attorney, Hutchins said he would be named executive producer of the film, and that was set to resume filming with all the original principal players on board. Hutchins went on to say, all of us believe that Halyna's death was a terrible accident. And the husband, Hutchins, said, I am grateful that the producers and the entertainment community have come together to pay tribute to Halyna's final work. In an Instagram post regarding that settlement, Baldwin called the settlement a resolution of a tragic and painful situation. Throughout this difficult process, Baldwin went on to say, everybody has maintained a specific desire to do what is best for Halyna's son. Now, following that up, on October the 27th, 2022, the Santa Fe Sheriff's Office, they did an investigation, and they submitted the investigative findings to prosecutors in Hutchins' death. And the spokesman, Rios, he turned over the department's findings to a Santa Fe-based district attorney's office. Now, they gave the results of that accident investigation, and here's what they said, without setting forth any recommendations about possible criminal charges. So the sheriff's office, they do a dragnet style deal there, just the facts, man, just the facts. They just turned over the facts. Now, according to the spokesman, the case file outlined all of the evidence collected, including investigative interviews and forensic analysis of the physical evidence by the FBI. And so now we go to November the 11th, 2022.
Well, the trigger wasn't pulled. I didn't pull the trigger.
So you never pulled the trigger?
No.
Last November, Alec Baldwin filed a lawsuit against several crew members, including the film's armorer, Hannah Gutierrez Reed, for giving him the gun, for failing to check the bullets or the gun carefully. Now, her attorney fired back, saying that Baldwin is the sole person responsible for this incident. He rejected training. He pointed the gun, pulled the trigger without the armorer being present.
Lawsuit that was filed also claims that Baldwin, a producer of the film, quote, did not know and had no reason to know any of those facts. So that comes to January 19, 2023. That's where we are today. That's when prosecutors, they announced that Baldwin and Reed will both be charged with 2 counts of involuntary manslaughter for their role in Hutchins' death. See, Reed was the gun handler. She was responsible for a lot of the props. So there are the facts and the timeline of this terrible event. Now we're going to talk about the charges. But before that, though, in order to lighten the load, it's time for what we at Charlie Crimebuster call our crazy crook story. And this is a crazy crook indeed. Well, this lady, by the way, she closed at least one case. That was her own. You see, there was a fugitive who was wanted for fraud. Well, she was busted, just busted recently, when she walked into a New Jersey sheriff's office and asked to be hired. That's right. What's wrong with walking in and asking to be hired? Nothing, unless maybe you have charges already filed against you in another state. Zema Johnson, 27, she was a former Postal Service worker from Jersey City. She was on the run for the crime in Monroe County, Pennsylvania, when she applied to work for the Hudson County Sheriff's Office. This is according to the Jersey Journal. She sent in the paperwork, you see, to be a security guard at the law enforcement agency. And she was called to the station under the guise of a job interview. Yeah, come on in. We've already checked you out. There are charges against you. They didn't tell them the charges were against her, of course, but said, come on in for the interview. Well, she was arrested Tuesday. That's according to the sheriff there. You see, after allegedly, that this foolhardy fraudster was busted, the officers allegedly then discovered, guess it, not only did they arrest her for the past charges, but while she was there, they discovered 2 stolen credit cards that she had, so she was also hit with credit card theft charges. Now, prior to applying for the job, she was wanted on 10 bench warrants. Not 1, not 2, not 3, but 10 bench warrants for failure to appear in court on a traffic charge. That's in Jersey City. So, my friend, if you are on the run from the law, it's just probably not a good idea to go to the law and apply for a job. So that, my friend, is our crazy crook story of the week. Now, in telling our stories, we've told you we never forget that these are about real people, and these real people have family and loved ones. And this lady by the name of Hutchins, she was born in April the 10th, 1979. There, Halyna. She grew up in a Russian city on a Soviet military base in the Arctic. There, her father served in the Soviet Navy. She called herself a quote-unquote Army brat, and according to the film historian Jim Hemphill, she first became interested in film while living at the military base. She also met her husband Matthew. She met him, who was American, while she was in the U.S., and they do have a son, Andrus. And while living in the U.S., though, she still maintained her Ukrainian citizenship. She remained proud of her heritage, and she often returned for a visit. Halyna, she moved to Los Angeles to focus on filmmaking and taking on roles in production, fashion photography. She was an associate producer on The World's Tallest Man. That film was premiered on the Discovery Channel. I could go on about her successes. She's worked on a number of films. However, the most important thing for us to really know now is that she has a husband, a guy by the name of Matthew, and she has a wonderful young son. And other friends, no doubt, and family. And keep in mind, they will miss her. It could not be easy to have come from another culture and country to make a successful career. A career and life that was taken up much too soon by this terrible, terrible incident. Today, we do give respect and honor to this young lady and her family. This was a terrible incident. Please note I did say incident, not crime. You see, while Baldwin is being charged with a crime, and they are actually following criminal statutes, we all know, all of us know, and all of those in the case, we do know that there was no intention in this situation to do harm. So that is where we really are in this case. Is this a criminal chargeable offense? Or was it just a tragic accident? And if it does meet the threshold for charges, first, are the right people charged? And next, will these charges meet the criteria for guilty without a reasonable doubt? To begin with, I guess we must take our emotional likes and dislikes aside. Alec Baldwin, he's a skilled actor, loved by millions. And as most in the public arena, some of them are not liked by a number of people, including, by the way, yours truly. I'm not a fan of Baldwin. I've seen his work. He's a good actor, but he just does not resonate with me. So in order to look at this in a fair way, I've got to put aside those feelings, and you have to put your feelings aside too. The question is, are the charges for Alec Baldwin, are they appropriate? That is the focus of this podcast. The prosecutors, they did announce Thursday they will charge Alec Baldwin as well as the Russ armorer, that was Hannah Reed, with 2 counts of involuntary manslaughter. Now, the Santa Fe district attorney, she told CNN that this was justified based on the lack of safety standards on the film set. She argues that when Baldwin was handed that prop gun, she said, quote, He didn't do any of the things that he was supposed to do to make sure that he was safe or that anyone around him was safe. Now, we all know that Baldwin's denied responsibility for the shooting. His attorney says these charges represent a terrible miscarriage of justice. Now, the DA also alleged that Baldwin did pull the trigger of the gun, even though, as you have already heard, he strongly denied that. The attorney went on to say every person that handles a gun has a duty to make sure that if they're going to handle that gun pointed at someone and pull the trigger, that it's not going to fire a projectile and kill someone. Now, keep in mind, Baldwin is also a producer on the Russ set. And actor Ethan Embry, well, that actor argued that the involuntary manslaughter charges seemed appropriate because, quote, he was a producer, authority figure on the production. And then another one told CNN that Baldwin is being charged both as an actor and producer, that he had a duty to make sure that the set was safe. That's in his latter role as a producer. He's a producer, so he actually does have responsibility, both morally and criminally, for what happened to him. That's what another attorney said. So to summarize, he's charged with involuntary manslaughter because, number one, he pulled the trigger, and number two, he's a producer and responsible for what goes on the set. So what say ye? What do you think about this? But before you speak, there's another side to this case. You see, there's some others that are saying that these charges are wrong. They're uninformed. The DA overreached. And the Actors Union, well, they got in on it. They slammed the charges against Baldwin. They argued in a statement that the death of Halyna Hutchins was not a criminal failure of duty or criminal act on the part of any performer. They went on to say, quote, an actor's job is not to be a firearms or weapons expert. Firearms are provided for their use under the guidance of multiple expert professionals. Those are the people that are directly responsible for the safe and accurate operation of that firearm. In addition, the employer is always responsible for providing a safe work environment at all times. That includes hiring, supervising the work of professionals trained with weapons. Now again, Baldwin's repeatedly said that the gun did not contain live rounds. That's what people told him before it was handed to him. Now, if you are a fan of the TV series Good Fight, this is what the Good Fight co-producer Robert King said. He says that charging Baldwin as an actor seems to misunderstand the chain of responsibility on a film set. If you're charging the actor, well, you also should be charging the director, the producers, all the producers, not just him, prop master, and many others. And then he goes on to say something else about these charges. King continues to say the fact that the DA did not charge others responsible for the film, well, he went on to say that it seems to suggest that she's trying to make a name for herself. So let me ask you, is the DA doing what we call today grandstanding? Now keep in mind that this charge could include a firearms enhancement charge. That could result in a mandatory 5-year prison sentence. So now we're talking more than the 18 months that they were talking about before. If they use a enhancement firearm charge on this, we're actually talking about serious consequences over what we all agree was a tragic, terrible mistake. So my friend, bottom line, is this an overreach? Or is it exactly what should be charged? I'm going to tell you what I think about it in a moment, but right now it's time for what we call our Courageous Citizen of the Week story. This one happened in Sanford, Florida. There was a man that attempted to carjack a Sanford bar employee. That was early Thursday this past week. And this man was shot and killed by the woman's significant other. That's according to the police department. You see, officers responded to George's Tavern near US 1729 and 11th Street around 2:20 a.m. And according to the police, the bar employee, only identified as a woman, was leaving for the night, getting into her vehicle when she was ambushed. You hear that? Ambushed by the man. But this man did not realize the employee's significant other was waiting nearby, saw the attack. He used a gun, shot the man. Officer said that man, who was later identified as 35-year-old Edward Alexander Barfield, well, he was dead in the back parking lot when they arrived, and now they're saying there are no charges pending for the employee or the significant other. This was that saying that you hear so often, a good man with a gun stopped a bad man. So this significant other became very significant in taking the courage to save a life, and that, my friend, is Charlie Crimebuster's Courageous Citizen of the Week. Now back to our main focus. While I do not like Baldwin as an actor, because of a number of reasons, I do not think that he intended to do harm. However, as one who encourages others to be smart gun owners, I go back to my own teaching, not from the law enforcement academy that I graduated from, nor from my years of experience as a cop and security specialist. I go back to when I was 10 to 12 years of age, and my dad, who took me hunting, taught me to shoot. And the first rule, never point a gun at anybody or anything unless you might use it. Never just think that the gun is empty. You know, I have to wonder how him pointing a gun at the production assistant when it really wasn't in the script, why he would think that that would be harmless, why he did not check to see whether it had a live round. Now, I know it's a movie prop. It was a .45 Colt. So it was a gun that was used as a prop. But one should always treat such weapon with caution and care, no matter what. So, I guess the real lesson here is that we must all be more careful with guns. Now, I'm sure the movie industry will no doubt overhaul safety measures to assure that such accidents do not happen again. In fact, this is what I'm hearing that is being said about the movie industry right now.
We imagine that there's going to be more checks and balances, more safety protocols, people being much more careful about having live rounds of ammunition on set.
Now, I'm glad to hear that, and I'm sure you are too. But I think we've got to go a little further on this. Not only the folks involved in the movie industries, but I think we as personal gun owners ourselves, we must make sure that we are carrying smart, that we are keeping people safe who might have access to our weapons. And I think we have to pledge ourselves as responsible gun owners to be more careful with guns, loaded or not. You see, my friend, more than 27,000 individuals are admitted to the emergency department for unintentional firearm injuries. Did you hear that? 27,000. Now, thankfully, the vast majority do not die of those type of injuries. However, so sad, there is an average of 492 people who unintentionally die by a gun in an average year. My friend, we just simply must do more to keep ourselves and our loved ones safe. Now, that does not mean that we should ban guns. If you ban guns, the only people with guns will be the bad people. The good people deserve the right to carry arms to protect themselves and their families. But this one where a precious young lady lost her life by the hands of an actor through a prop gun, well, this one will be settled on the field of legalities. And should it not be settled out of court, then it will then be settled by a judge and a jury. We're going to follow it because, my friend, it has a lot of ramifications. How about you? How would you rule if you were on the jury? If you were on the jury where Alec Baldwin took this prop gun that he had told was safe and was cold, wasn't a hot gun, and shot someone accidentally, would you rule him guilty of involuntary manslaughter? What say ye? I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear your opinion. You can reach me, Charlie Crimebuster at gmail.com. That's Charlie Crimebuster at gmail.com. So until next time, this is Charlie Crimebuster reminding you, be safe and be alert, especially be safe around weapons. For the life you save, yep, it may be your very own.